Last night, I experienced yet another dark night of the soul as the solstice energy is already upon us. And remember, the solstice is a period of time standing still, of deep reflection and ascension. So, a dark night of the soul experience is often triggered by a solstice, whether it's the winter solstice for you, the shortest night of the year, or it's the summer solstice where you are, which is still a point of transformation. Welcome to your multidimensional journey. I am Tracy Canberra, and today we're exploring the solstice energies triggering a dark night of the soul for you and what it's about, how you can go through it. And I give you an exercise to initiate a dark night of the soul so that you can release and heal and transform and ascend. The concept of the dark night of the soul is one that is often revered and celebrated in the arena of personal growth and spiritual journeys, which I find really amusing because it's not a fun experience. I've had several. Again, I had one last night. I find them valuable, but they're not easy and they're not fun. It's a pivotal moment of intense transformation where the veil of illusion is lifted and you're forced to confront your deepest fears and insecurities, your deepest patterns, conditioning, and traumas in this life, and sometimes in other lives. You can have more than one dark night of the soul. It can happen every time you complete a path on your soul journey or jump timelines. Some can be huge, some can be mild, but as we're human, we get more than one. When you're in the middle of the dark night of the soul, it can be an overwhelming experience. It's like being lost in the dense forest with no clear direction or path in sight. Despair, confusion, and isolation are just a few of the emotions that can consume you, making it feel like you're drowning in a sea of darkness. That's what it was like for me when I did get lost in the dense forest on a family vacation when I was about 6 years old. That sea of darkness where you end up losing yourself. That's where you get the name, Dark Night of the Soul. Often we find it's a time when your sense of identity is shattered and you're left questioning everything you thought you knew about yourself, your loved ones, your situations and environment, the whole world that you see around you. And the more you resist, the more you suffer. The more you try to control, the more you feel like you're losing your grip on reality. And the whole time, this darkness is closing in, threatening to entirely engulf you in any moment. It's no wonder why so many of us try to run away from it, to escape pain and fear. But the truth is, the only way out is through it. And isn't that always the way in this human incarnation? Gotta go through it. I have a good friend in Sedona that does soul retrievals. Now, I see things differently as you have only one soul, although you can connect with your soul family with all other souls. So I consider the dark night of the soul more of a process to retrieve other aspects of your soul self, a returning to more of your true soul self. And that's important because as humans, we tend to give away pieces of ourselves in relationships, in jobs, at home, in any situation where we do not feel seen or heard or understood, where we do not feel safe. Like we have to change ourselves in order to get what we want, or more importantly, in order to get what we need to survive. The part of yourself that you gave up, that's what you're returning to yourself in a retrieval process. You are returning those pieces to your mental body, your emotional body, certainly to your energy field when you do a retrieval process or go through a dark night of the soul. Now, when you're willing to surrender, to let go of your ego's need for control, that one's a hard one for me. That's when the real transformation begins. You start to see the world and yourself through new eyes because you've discovered the root cause of your pain and suffering. And it's not others' treatment of you, it's not what others required of you. It is what you chose to give up in that moment for any myriad of reasons. When you've discovered the root cause, and opened yourself up to more self-love and more self-empowerment, and especially more self-awareness, that's when you retrieve your lost bits and you feel more whole, more safe, and more secure. It's not about other people, it's about yourself. Look inward. The dark night of the soul is happening for you, not to you, and not because of others, but because of what you chose in that moment. When you retrieve the lost parts of yourself, it takes you out of survival mode, from survival to thrival. Takes you from fear into love, self-love, compassionate love for others, a universal love. And that love shines the light, illuminating your path forward on your soul journey. Because it is indeed a soul journey. Your soul chose to go through this drama and trauma, always. They're soul contracts. God is not punishing you. Spirit, the universe does not do that, ever. God is love. Spirit is love. We are infinite love. We just forget that as we incarnate. Souls are infinite beings of unconditional divine love that choose to incarnate on Earth or any other 3D planet, because there's more than just us, in order to experience more emotions, to experience what they cannot in their soul form and often in higher dimensional incarnations. And that is to experience the disharmony and discoherence so that their human aspect has the opportunity to return to coherence, return to love. That's what my older brother said from the other side right after he passed 10 years ago. Return to love. I think about that often. I remind myself often, return to love. So our souls incarnate to lose their connection to source and regain it. I always call it phase 1 catalyst, phase 2 in sessions with clients. Phase 1 is experiencing the lack of connection. And there's so many ways to do that. Through abandonment, through manipulation and force, through trauma, so many ways. That's your life path, and everyone's life path is different. Now, at the end of phase 1, you reach your catalyst period, which again is unique to everyone. Different age, different time, different way of doing it. But in my experience in client sessions, everyone has a catalyst period. What I usually see as a catalyst period takes months, but sometimes I've seen years, sometimes I've seen a week, which is awesome. But generally, I tend to see catalyst periods taking months. When the catalyst portion of your life path is complete, that's when you find yourself in phase 2. From the downward spiral, lost in 3D, to the upward soaring, expanding awareness into 5D as you return to love. So for some, the dark night of the soul takes them into the depths of their own soul, where they dig deep to uncover all the hidden patterns and beliefs and traumas that have held them back for years. The choices you've made to survive that are still programs running in the background now, even though you no longer need them. This is why when you surrender to the dark night of the soul, you delve deeper into that darkness and you begin to uncover the truth about who you truly are and what you're truly capable of. This is when you can start to see that the pain and fear and traumas, they're not the enemies. The other people that did this to you, right? It's never to you, it's for you. The others that participated in this with you are not the enemies, but the catalyst for your growth, for your frequency expansion, for your ascension into 5D and beyond. So while I had a dark night of the soul last night and this morning, they often do happen at night so that you can work on them during sleep time. My most powerful dark night of the soul happened just months after I moved to Sedona back in 2011. A spiritual friend had told me about this brick room process, and I can laugh about it now, but wow, it wasn't funny when it happened. The process is where first you set your intentions And mine was to heal and release anything holding me back from my highest good, for my ascension. So you set your intentions and then you build a brick room around you in your mind. You see yourself in the middle of this brick container that is building up higher and higher until it is completely containing you. Now, this brick room does not signify a cocoon that can protect you. It is an impenetrable container around yourself, one that you cannot escape from until you are completing your process. So you cannot leave it, but also nothing can come in to help you, not your guides, not your angels. I was told that when the process is complete, God, and that's the term he used, God will dismantle the room and free you. Well, the process when I did it initiated a dark night of the soul, and it worked very well. It was literally the worst night of hell I've ever experienced. First, I'll say that I have claustrophobia that is not as intense as it was back in 2011. I searched for the life that I incurred claustrophobia because I couldn't think of a reason why I had it in this life. So I searched other lives, asked my soul, and they showed me an Egyptian life where I was a servant entombed with my master upon their death. And so I slowly asphyxiated. While I've worked on that, it's not completely gone. I still can't wear scarves, and it's not as much small spaces as it is a lot of people or being in a contained space I can't get out of. So the first thing that happened when I built the brick room was I had a claustrophobia panic attack and I couldn't get out. So then I called upon Archangel Michael, and he's like, bro, and don't ask me why he always calls me bro, but he does. Keep telling him I'm a woman in this life. But he said, bro, I can't help you. You built this room. You're on your own. I'm on the outside sending you love and energy, but I can't get in, and no one else can either. You did this for yourself. Okay, so now I wasn't getting any help. And then, of course, all of the attachments came in. Feeling my children being ripped away from me, that connection to my kids being ripped away. I couldn't feel them anymore. I couldn't sense them anymore. I was so alone and so deep in the darkness. And it went on and off all night. I swear I didn't sleep all night. It would go in waves where attachments would come up and be just ripped out of me. And I'll never forget, I'm in the middle of all of this traumatic shenanigans, and I hear this really subtle voice. Are you ready to be done? And I'm like, dude, don't bother me. I'm waiting for God. God came to me no less than 4 times, and I kept pushing him away because my expectation was this big, huge, dramatic, divine light, right? The white light at the end of the tunnel is coming in a divine intervention to rescue me. So when this real subtle, "Hey, you ready to go now?" would show up, I was like, "Go away, I'm waiting for the big guy." Yeah, 4 times. And finally it dawned on me, "Oh, this is God." So that's when I said, "Yes, please, I am done." And the brick room disintegrated, and I was laying there in bed, and all of this beautiful divine love was emanating from me. I was so filled with love. I could not possibly absorb any more love. I could splash this universal love onto others, but I could not possibly be more full than I was at that moment. It was such an amazing feeling. It lasted for a few days. And then, of course, 3D creeps in, right? The one I had last night was more of the reflection type, a lot more mild, where I got to the root cause because it's never what another does to you. It's what you have done to yourself, what you initiated within. And so it was me getting to a lot of root causes and finding the peace within myself. Because in 3D, we relive the trauma. In 5D, you say, I don't wish to experience this. I don't wish to feel this way or think these thoughts. So I release it and I move into the thoughts I do want to think and the feelings I do want to feel. So my self-revelation, dark night of the soul last night, when I woke up this morning, I saw the root causes. And for me, it was not feeling valued or validated or seen and heard and understood, not having my vulnerability reciprocated, when I realized it was all that, that's when I could work on it within myself because it's not about valuation or validation. You are divine. You are 100% valued by spirit. Other humans don't have the right or ability to affect you unless you allow them to. So, yeah, my self revelation this morning was about me shifting my power back within myself. And that is a 5D experience, shifting the way I think and feel and believe and choosing to be happy, choosing to be love, choosing to be anchored in the divine. So, my experiences are just two examples of the human soul connection and what can emerge within the dark night of the soul when you're facing your darkest fears, patterns, and traumas head on. In the moments of transformation, you're given a glimpse of your true potential and the miracles that can occur when you're willing to let go of the old and embrace the new. That's a big one. Let go. Allow change. Allow the new in. Tell yourself it is going to be better than you could ever imagine. I welcome it. I allow it in. Show me the end of this transformation because I welcome it. I allow it in. I embrace it. I invite transformation and I embrace the new as it comes in because it is of a higher frequency and it is for my higher good. So, as you journey through the dark night of the soul, remember you're not alone. You're not alone in your pain, your fear, your struggles. You're not alone in your desire to emerge stronger, wiser, more loving, more compassionate, more whole unto yourself. In the end, the dark night of the soul isn't something to be feared, but rather something to be embraced. It's a reminder that you're capable of so much more than you ever thought possible. You can indeed release all that's held you down, held you back, held you in survival, and you can step into more of your true self. You can become more love and more abundance and more success than you ever thought possible. So try the brick room process for yourself. And if you're on YouTube, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the dark night of the soul. Have you had one or more? How did you come through it? What was it like for you? Help others in our community that are going through these catalyst periods and that have a transformational dark night of the soul awaiting them on this solstice. And of course, if you want assistance with all of this clearing and healing, you can book a session. I have the links in the description below. And I am so grateful for every like and subscribe and share. It really boosts the channel and helps me to make more content for you. Remember, the darkest night precedes the brightest dawn. I wish you all the love in the universe and thank you for ascending with me.